folks, Scott here with my 10-card one-kit video featuring the Love From Lizi September 2020 Super Card Kit. September is Lizi's 4th anniversary running Love From Lizi, so she always gives us a super card kit overfilled with exciting new products. This kit is an exclusive kit just to Lizi. Nobody else has these products. This is the Wonderland kit, all themed around Alice in Wonderland. Of course, I'm a big old fan of the Alice in Wonderland books. They are on my bookshelves, of course. You take our colored card stocks provided in the kit and cut them in half and use them for my card bases. We do have a slimline card this month. I was really excited that we would get a chance to do some coloring this month. So for my first card, we've got this on a pink card base. Surprise, surprise. And we have that terrific sentiment. It would be so nice if something made sense for a change, featuring that stamped Alice and the key and the keyhole, a really pretty card. Perfectly in theme with this kit. I stamped our Alice and the key and the keyhole using Memento black ink on some of the Love From Lizi alcohol-friendly cardstock included in the kit. I colored all of those with my Spectrum Noir alcohol markers and die cut them out with the included matching dies. Now, I cut this piece of pattern paper on an angle. This is actually a Harlequin pattern paper, and I cut it on an angle and glued it to the left side of my pink card base. I thought that was very interesting. Looks a little more like tiles and a little less like a Harlequin diamond pattern. I glued that down to my card front. I lined the edges of that with some lilac mirror peel-offs from Love From Lizi. I stamped this sentiment very carefully using Memento black ink directly on my pink card base. Some of this text in some of our sentiments here is extremely small, so very careful stamping is called for so you don't smudge or smash or fill in the center of the A. I fussy cut the end of Alice's hand here and slipped the key underneath her hand so she's actually holding that key there. I then mounted her and the keyhole with foam tape and added a few of the enamel glitter dots to finish out this card. It would be so nice if something made sense for a change. I think we all feel that right about now, kind of feel that about this whole damn year. Now, we also got this gigantic pack of ephemera pieces, 100 pieces of ephemera along with this kit, everything from Alice to the characters to flowers and assorted props. For my second card on the green card base, I turned to our ephemera pieces and we've got a Get Well Soon card with the ephemera pieces that I turned into a bit of a decoupage. That's one of the nice things when you get multiple pieces in an ephemera pack. You can fussy cut the borders away from some, glue them on top of each other, and create a nice dimensional decoupage piece. The background here is the large ephemera piece with the bouquet coming out of the keyhole. I thought that worked fine as a vase. There was another ephemera piece with just the 3 flowers and greenery. I trimmed off their edges and the greenery, glued that down for my second layer. Then I trimmed out the little pink rose and the yellow lotus flower, fussy cut their borders away and glued those on the top for my third layer. Really nice, fun decoupage piece. I think Lizi would be proud of me for creating my own decoupage. You know, I always like Lizi's decoupage. Some nice dimension there. Now, we've got one of our acetate sentiments down here. This is the Get Well Soon. A number of people are asking about how to attach those to their cards. For this piece, I just die cut this banner with a Everyday Sentiment banner die from Lawn Fawn. And then I attached my acetate sentiment to that by using 2 of the green glitter enamel dots. I just stuck those on the edges. I added a dot of glue underneath those and stuck my sentiment down to that banner by using those 2 dots. It's nice, and it actually gives a little sense of dimension because the sentiment's not pressed flat against the banner there. Get well soon, a lovely bouquet. I used some of the new ruby red peel-offs and some white peel-offs to make a little partial frame around the edges of this card. Added some more of the green glitter enamel dots for the last touch of sparkle, and I did add a little bit of sparkle to that red flower in the background there. I think you can see that there. Get well soon. That is as far away from the Alice theme as we are going to go this month. I'm ready to spend some more time in Wonderland, if you please. For my 3rd card on the red card base, I'm sticking with the ephemera pieces, and we've got You Are Entirely Bonkers, but I'll tell you a secret, all the best people are. There's another sentiment with very, very small type, very small font. Careful when you're stamping that. I actually went in and highlighted the Bonkers with a thin white gel pen, but I think that's pretty readable. I cut 2 strips of this black and white heart pattern paper. It doesn't look like Harlequins, it just looks like a zigzag now. I cut those 2 strips and glued those down to the front of my red card base. I ran one of the ruby red peel-offs on the inside edges of both of those. I attached, these are 2 ephemera pieces. I think they're the only 2 ephemera pieces that actually face each other. So I paired those up together, attached those with foam tape. This is, of course, stamped with Memento black ink. A number of red sequins from our sequin mix finish out this card. You are entirely bonkers, but I'll tell you a secret. All the best people are. Boy, ain't that the truth. And I love those bunnies. This is the white rabbit. I believe this is the March hare, if I remember my Alice in Wonderland correctly. Now, when I first looked at this stamp set, especially looking at this Alice stamp, I didn't realize that this was her hair. At first, I thought it was part of her dress. I hadn't seen her colored up. Of course, once you see her colored, you realize that that's her hair. But I also thought that it might be easy to erase that line of the stamping and give Alice a bit of a bob. So my 4th card here on the navy card base, and we've got Alice falling down the hole. She just followed the white rabbit down the hole, is falling fast. This is my dream. I'll decide where to go from here. Alice in Wonderland. I think that explains very well what's going on with this card. Now, look at that Alice. I simply wiped away the right side of her hair when I stamped it and gave her a cute little bob. I decided to go ahead and color her with a darker skin tone to go along with her new haircut. This is all stamped with Memento ink on Love From Lizi alcohol-friendly cardstock and colored with my alcohol markers. I also added some little stitching lines on the edge of her skirt there. I did that on this first card too. I think it added a lot of detail and actually a lot of movement to that dress. Now for my little faux hole on the front of this card, I cut a piece of pattern paper to 4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. I measured in 1/4 inch from this side and 1/4 inch from this side. I found the center here and measured 1/4 inch to the left and 1/4 inch to the right, then connected those 1/4 inch marks and cut that center piece out. Now what's great about those dimensions is you can actually take that center piece that you cut out, cut it in half right down the center, and you will have 2 more pieces that would make this card one more time. This card tickles me to no end. I wanted to get some movement going with Alice, and I thought falling down the hole was the perfect way to do that. In the original book, it takes her such a long time to fall down the hole that she has a chance to look around, and she sees all these items on the side, reaches out for a jar of orange marmalade, only to find out that it's empty. But I thought this pattern paper went very well as for showing us lots of stuff that happens to be on the sides of the rabbit hole. This is my dream. I'll decide where to go from here. Alice in Wonderland. Falling down the hole with a new hairdo. Our stamp set also has that great teapot and a couple of teacups. Of course, tea puns are pretty easy to come by. I like this one. Hey there, bestie. Hey there, bestie. It makes me giggle. It's a small pun, but it gave me much pleasure. Again, I stamped the images with Memento ink on Lizi cardstock, colored those with my alcohol markers. I fussy cut this little tablecloth out of this black and white pattern paper, fussy cut the edges. I put a little score mark there where the edge of the table would be. On this white cardstock, I actually, there, I think you can see it there, I actually scored this white cardstock to look like beadboard in the background. So you can see that beadboard back there. I glued that white cardstock to our blue card base, attached the tablecloth with a piece of foam tape under the lip here, and just glued the top edge down. Die cut and attached my teapot and teacup using foam tape. There's a few enameled glitter dots there coming out of the tea. I created this sentiment using my silhouette portrait, created it and cut it out. Hey there, bestie. That's in the typewriter hand font. I went ahead and used my silhouette to cut that out. I cut 4 layers of that, glued them all together so there's a little bit of dimension, a little bit of a chipboard style to that sentiment. Glued that down to my card front. There's a nice pun for us this month. Hey there, bestie. This card feels really serene to me. Hard to come by these days, I tell you. I was thrilled to receive the add-on stamp sets this month. You guys know I like to color. We've got this is the Oh Dear, this is the I'm Not Crazy, this is the Drink Me, and this is the Gone Mad stamp sets. These are all add-on stamp sets. I'm so glad I got them. Let's play with all of these, make some cards using those add-on stamp sets. For card number 6, we are on the green card base again, and we've got The Hurrier I Go, The Behinder I Get, featuring that great, lovely, I love that stamp, the White Rabbit stamp. Now, I stamped the rabbit and the sentiment right next to each other on some Lizi cardstock, and colored this with my Spectrum Noir markers. Then I did a little partial die cut with the included die on the side of the rabbit, and then completed that cut by trimming out around the sentiment. I really like that. Instead of making those 2 pieces, including them all on one focal point with a nice cut edge, I think is very attractive. On my green card base, I stamped that middle clock from the stamp set on the top and bottom edges, stamped that with Versamark ink, and I embossed that with the Love From Lizi Golden Coin embossing powder. Gold and green go well together. I also used a gold gel pen to give his little clock a little gold outline around that, and I colored the 2 large capitals with that gold gel pen, and then used a gold colored pencil to color in the smaller text pieces. I cut this piece of pattern paper 2.5 inches wide, glued that down to the center of my card front. I lined the top and bottom of that with more of the white peel-offs. I believe those are in the variety pack, the Wonderland variety peel-off pack. And then I just attached my die cut and colored piece to the front of this card using some foam tape. The Hurrier I Go, the Behinder I Get. I thought that was the perfect opportunity for a happy belated birthday. I know we all miss a birthday here and there. I think the White Rabbit is just the perfect character to apologize for a missed birthday. The Hurrier I Go, the Behinder I Get. Happy belated birthday, featuring that great White Rabbit stamp. The I'm Not Crazy stamp set featured the Cheshire Cat. We're going to do something very similar on a blue card base. We've got, if you don't know where you want to go, then it doesn't matter which path you take. Boy, I can empathize with that sentiment. That tickled me so much. I stamped my Cheshire Cat and the sentiment again on Lizi white cardstock, colored that with my alcohol markers. I sorely did not want to color this Cheshire Cat purple, which is the color of all of the ephemera pieces. So I thought a nice golden tabby would work very well and went nicely with this pattern paper. I did the same thing again and partially die cut that Cheshire cat, and then trimmed around the sentiment by fussy cutting and made that all one large focal piece. I cut down a piece of the pattern paper and I punched the edges with an old American Crafts edge punch. I used that punch again on a piece of black cardstock, glued those two together for a little black mat, and then mounted those up on foam tape on top of a couple more strips of that same cardstock. These are, I believe, the blue denim peel-offs from Lizi, lining the two sides there, and then I finally attached our lovely little Cheshire cat to the front of this card with some more foam tape. If you don't know where you want to go, then it doesn't matter which path you take. I know so many people that would be such an appropriate card for. That's with our Cheshire cat, the I'm Not Crazy stamp set. And then there is the Drink Me stamp set on our navy card base. We've got Every Adventure Requires a First Step. Love that sentiment. I stamped the sentiment on a scrap of white cardstock, trimmed that down to 1 7/8 inches wide by 4.5 inches. That sentiment stamped on the right side of that. I took a piece of that same pattern paper I used on the rabbit hole over here, cut that to a 2-inch strip, and cut a couple more thin 1/8 strips from that pattern paper. I stamped the cake and the decanter using the same Memento ink, colored those with my alcohol markers again, die cut them with the included dies. Remember, all these add-on stamp sets include dies. It's a great value. Colored those up. I glued my white sentiment strip across the center of the card. I glued the 2 pattern paper strips above and below that, glued my 2-inch pattern paper on top of that, then attached our images with some foam tape, added a nice assortment of sequins from our sequin mix, and that is this card. Every adventure requires a first step, and everybody needs a nice little snack before they start their next adventure. Eat me, I'm a cookie. Gone Mad is the last add-on stamp set on the red card base. We've got We're All Mad Here. There's actually another sentiment that says the same thing on the kit stamp set. So you could do this with the kit and with a piece of ephemera from our pack. I hadn't used any of the ribbon in our kit yet, so I thought I would try to do a little ribbon weaving on a diamond, on one of those Harlequin diamonds. I spent way too much time fiddling with this. It was such a pain in the butt to get those ribbons to go at the right angle. This diamond is actually 4 inches by 2 inches on their centers. I'm not even sure if that's still the best dimension for that diamond, but I managed to get all of those ribbons woven on that, and I glued that down to a black mat, tucked all the edges underneath to hide them. I figured I could hide any of the messy parts with my stamped images. So I stamped the hat on more Lizi cardstock, colored that with my Spectrum Noir alcohol markers, die cut that out with the included die. I stamped We're All Mad Here using some Versamark ink and embossed that with some Hero Arts red embossing powder. Went very well with the color of this card. I die cut this pattern paper with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die, added a black mat to that, and then glued that down to my red card base. I mounted the hat and my fussy cut sentiment with some foam tape and some glue right on top of that weaving, and then added another variety of our enamel glitter drops to finish out this card. Really nice card. I think this came out very nice. I love that ribbon. I love that the weaving still makes all of those cross pieces little diamonds instead of little squares. It was a pain, but I managed to overcome. This is our We're All Mad Here, featuring the Mad Hatter's hat. That brings us to our last card. This is a slimline card for all you slimline fanatics out there. And we've got Those Who Don't Believe in Magic Will Never Find It. Okay. Well, how about that? And was that a white rabbit running past me? And we've got a slider card featuring the white rabbit again. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. A little bit of magic for you. He hides completely under each side of this slider card. I actually filmed me putting this together, so here's a quick look at my process video for this card. So of course I start by stamping my white rabbit using my Misty. This is just on a scrap of white cardstock, and I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. I've recently come around to this ink for my alcohol coloring because it works so good. I've had a couple of problems with my VersaFine Onyx Black ink, but I find that the Memento ink works beautifully with alcohol markers. These are my Spectrum Noir alcohol markers. I'll try and put my color caps here so you can see them. I've been trying to be a little bit more bold and a little less timid with my alcohol marker coloring. They've always intimidated me a little bit. I am trying to be more aggressive with them, shall we say. Oh my goodness, I like these colors. These are all blue turquoise colors on our white rabbit's coat here. I'll let you listen to a little music while I continue to color this. Of course, I got interrupted a few times while I was trying to film this, and so we will get to a point here where we're going to jump forward, and I won't be showing you my coloring of the white rabbit itself, but just be assured that I use the Blue-Gray 1 and Blue-Gray 2 to color our white rabbit. There he is, already colored. I think my neighbor came over with a bunch of questions. I went back to filming and forgot to turn the camera on, of course. I use my blender to blend out those gray shades. I do use a gold gel pen to give the outline of his watch a little bit of gold, and go in one more time with some blender pen to blend out those grays. I love making a little die cut mask before I die cut a colored image. I think I first saw this from Gina K over at Gina K Designs. Cut a mask out of a contrasting piece of paper, put that over your colored image, tape it down. Your die will fit right in there just like a puzzle piece. You can tape that down, hold everything in place, and then send it through your die cutting machine. I really like this method. I think it gives me fairly consistent results every time. There's nothing worse than spending time coloring an image and then getting your die cut off. There's our die cut bunny. My cardstock, I used some 110-pound cardstock cut to 8 by 9 and scored on the 8-inch side at 4 inches. So our card is 4 inches by 9 inches. That's a little larger than most slimline cards, but you see it does fit inside a number 10 business envelope. So these are all my pieces. I've spent a lot of time putting these together already. Our 2 side panels and our center slider panel. There the bunny slides from left to right and hides behind those 2 panels. This was a bit of a fussy job. I needed to match up the patterns on this pattern paper because I had to double the length of the pattern paper, and then I also wanted the inside piece, the piece that rides in the back in the opening, to match the top and bottom, so it kind of disguises it. That took a lot of time. I marked where it should go on my card front and just put some glue on that center background piece, and glued that down and then peeled up the top and bottom pieces. That background piece should be what the penny slides on, should provide our gap in our slider with a background so you don't really notice it quite that much. I'm using my favorite things. These are the slider elements. This is the first time I've used them. These are like little flat Tic Tacs, and you use those on your penny instead of foam tape between your die cut piece and your penny. They're really smooth. They never get hung up. I really kind of like these. I think I'll use them some more. Little flat Tic Tacs, of course. So I add some foam tape to my top and bottom pieces. Make sure those little Tic Tacs will fit between them. I went way overboard and used some E6000 to attach these little Tic Tacs to my penny. I'm sure some permanent glue dots would hold them there with no problem, but I wasn't sure. I hadn't used them before, so of course I went overboard. I stamped my sentiment on a scrap of cardstock. I used VersaFine ink because I was going to emboss it with some clear embossing powder. I trimmed that down to size and then just used a little hole punch to chop off the corners and made a little shaped sentiment banner right there. So now everything's going to start falling apart. I add a piece of foam tape behind my top and bottom and find out that the penny will not fit. I'm going to have to put 2 layers of foam tape between the top and bottom pieces of that. So I do that and start adding everything down. There we go. The penny actually moves between these pieces now. I trim my 2 side panels down, and this is another big boo-boo. I start adding foam tape to the back of those. I started with this Doris double-sided foam strips. They didn't work, not tall enough, not wide enough. I ended up just chopping down some foam tape and using that on the sides of these panels. I have to leave room for the rabbit in there. I'm getting very frustrated. I can't get the rabbit to stick on top of those Tic Tacs. Oh my goodness, no fun. Finally, I decided that I just needed to walk away. Okay, so it's the next day. I have made a number of adjustments to this card. Of course, anytime I dream up an idea and try and make it work, it goes through a number of trial and error processes. Let me tell you what has changed. Now, I do have 2 pieces of foam tape behind our channels here. Both sides have 2 pieces of foam tape. The bunny slides very well, very easily across the entire track with no problem. The bunny is, of course, attached to a penny, and then just use some permanent glue dots to attach my rabbit to the penny. Now, in order to get my little bunny to hide and slide behind the end pieces with no problem, I ended up having to add 4 layers of foam tape to my little end pieces. Now we've got a really, really thick card, so I didn't think it would fit in an envelope at the full 4-inch width. So I did cut this down to 3.5 inches. I simply took the card base and cut it along the score line. I cut a 1/4 inch off the bottom of the front, and I scored a 1/4 inch on the top of the front. Then I cut the back piece down to 3.5 inches wide, folded my score mark, and glued those 2 pieces together. So now my card is 3.5 inches wide by 9 inches long. I didn't want to lose any of my length because I wanted as much room for my bunny to scoot across there as possible. Now I did get a couple of boo-boos from working on this earlier. I stabbed myself with my X-Acto knife and got a little splooge on my card here. This did go further over, and I've already fixed that. I've got, looks like, one more little bitty mark right down here on the bottom. So I love to use, you could use a white gel pen to cover those over. I love using my unicorn white pigment ink from Hero Arts and one of these little disposable micro applicators. Just rub that, pick up a little ink, tap, 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 tap on top of, whether it's ink or blood, whatever is messing up the front of your card. Just pat, 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 pat. Put a nice little bit of that white ink over the top of it. Because that white ink takes a little bit of time to dry, I do like taking my little powder bag and tapping it on top of that. Give it a little blow off. That's really, really almost imperceptible. You can add another layer if you'd like. You can see, if you look really closely, you can see where this has been covered up on the right side there, but unless you're looking for it, you'll never see it. I don't have to clean up the rest of this as it's hidden underneath the side panel. It's just a little more me on this card than might normally be expected. So I've added a racing stripe across the top here. Let's add a racing stripe across the bottom here. These are the black pinstripe peel-offs. I did a thick one on the top. I'm going to go with a medium-sized one on the bottom. These peel-offs are in the add-on peel-off kits. We'll just lay that across. Give it a bit of a pull. Helps make it nice and straight. That looks good. We've got a couple of racing stripes. And so I've also added some racing stripes to the edges of our two side pieces. That's upside down. That goes like that. Let's add two of those to the left side here. This is just some nice black cardstock cut into little 8-inch strips. Run some liquid glue down the back of that and glue it down to the edge of our card. These are, of course, longer than they need to be, but we can trim off the excess. I just want to make sure that the edges are nice and flush, nice and even up against each other. Not only do these dress up the cards, but I thought they would add a little bit more stability to the edges of our little hidey holes here so that they didn't droop or otherwise cause any problems. This is the other one on the other side. Some glue on the back of that. Match that up to the other side of our end piece. Press that down into place. We'll let that dry for a moment. My sentiment, I've cut some scrap pieces of white cardstock, 3 layers, glued those to the back. I just wanted to give it a little bit of height. So let's add some glue to that. Liquid glue gives you the opportunity to wiggle it around, get it in just the right spot. Be a little higher than the center. Those who don't believe in magic will never find it. I think that's a really fun sentiment to use with this little scampering white rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. I've had so much fun with this kit. We can turn our attention back to our card. We do need to put a stopper for our white rabbit. I'll just take a little piece of foam tape, slide it in that channel until it hits the part where I want to stop the bunny. I'll just press that down, trim off the excess, and now our bunny is constrained. He moves freely back and forth. This is coming together slowly but surely. Let's trim off our extra racing stripes on the left side hidey hole. I'm going to put some liquid glue on top of my foam tape. I tell you, this foam tape is hard to cut when it's 4 layers thick. So it gives me a little wiggle room to make sure that I get this piece in the exact right position. On the left side, it is the correct direction, up and down. And that looks really good. That feels like it should be there. Our bunny slips right behind him easily. Oh boy, we are almost done. Peel off our liner paper, add some liquid glue. Now we can put this piece in place. Line it up with the edge of the card on all 3 sides. That looks good, that looks good. Our bunny rabbit hides in his hole. Yay! A little bit of magic. There goes that bunny. I like him. He provides a nice pop of color in the middle of this card. Let's see if this will actually fit in an envelope now. I didn't take any of the length off, so it is still 9 inches long. It looks like it should fit. What will be the big test is if we can fold the flap on it. And yes, indeed, we can fold the flap on it. That does fit in a regular business size envelope. Those who don't believe in magic will never find it. Where's that rabbit go? A couple of things I don't think I mentioned in that process video. I did fussy cut the white border around our little white rabbit a little bit down so he would slide and hide behind our side panels easily. I also added some extra foam tape on our end bumpers in the center. Since most people were going to grab the cards from the sides here, that extra bump on the ends keeps them from squashing down his little hidey holes. Lovely card. I really like this so much. That rabbit will go so fast that you almost don't see him go by. And of course you can make him go much slower. Those who don't believe in magic will never find it. I know some people who can't believe it when I say I'll spend hours and hours and hours upon a card, but there's a perfect example of one for you. That's my 10 cards using the Love From Lizi September 2020 Wonderland Super Card Kit. I really love how all of these came out very colorful, quite fun, and very enjoyable. I, of course, have tons of supplies left over. I actually still have one sheet of white cardstock and a half a sheet of pink cardstock. I've got 16 of our 24 sheets of cardstock that have not been touched. Of course, lots of scraps there. I used a little bit of everything in our embellishment bag. There's even, yes, I did. I put one of those stick-it notes on the inside of this card here. I love those pass it on stick-it notes. Looks like I have 94 ephemera pieces still left. I did use some of the new ruby red peel-offs, and I almost used all the stamps in this stamp set. Love that stamp set, and I love all of these add-on stamp sets as well. All of these will find loving homes in my stash. I am trying to be a little more brave with my alcohol marker coloring, and I think it's coming along very well. I love my little hat down here. It's not black, it's actually blue, but it reads as black. I love the bobbed hair on the upside down Alice card. I had a great time making these cards this month. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up in the top up there. It lets YouTube know that they should share this video with other like-minded card makers. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me here. Your attention touches my heart and moves me to no end. We are still kind of isolated here in New York City. I'm still on furlough, will probably be for the rest of the year. I send my prayers to everybody on the West Coast that you are safe and are away from the wildfires. I hope we can get a grip on that as soon as possible. In the meantime, everybody else, please stay safe. Please stay healthy. Wear your masks. Wash your hands. Avoid large crowds in enclosed rooms. I don't think theater is going to open until well after the first of the year. I'm crossing my fingers. I send you all love and care and virtual hugs across the country and across the world. Please remember to like me, list me, pin me, post me, share me with all of your friends. Don't go chasing rabbits down no rabbit holes. And as always, I wish you happy crafting. If you'd like more detailed information, better pictures, and product links, please visit my website at cardcutups.com.